You are currently staring at your phone while the version of yourself you promised to become is slowly beginning to wither away. Your brain is actively lying to you by suggesting that tomorrow will somehow provide more willpower than the exhaustion you feel today. This invisible deception is not a personal character flaw, but a sophisticated neurological survival mechanism designed to keep you safe and stagnant. Do you truly recognize the person looking back at you in the mirror, or are you just a collection of unfinished goals? There is a dangerous mental trap waiting for you the moment you decide to improve your life through the lens of motivation. We live in a digital age where your ancient dopamine receptors are being hijacked by algorithms designed to monetize your chronic hesitation. This specific environment makes the comfort of the status quo more addictive and more destructive than at any other point in history. Evolution wired your ancestors to conserve energy because a lack of calories meant certain death in a harsh and unforgiving wilderness. Modern life has removed the physical threat, but your amygdala still treats a difficult work task like a predator hiding in the grass. This primitive resistance creates a neurochemical wall that makes the act of starting feel like a physical weight on your entire chest. When you wait for the right mood to strike, you are essentially handing the keys of your future to a fickle emotion. The downward spiral begins with one small decision to snooze the alarm or push a healthy meal back to next Monday morning. Neuroscientists suggest that every time you break a promise to yourself, you are actively training your brain to stop trusting your intent. This erosion of self-integrity leads to a liquidation of your discipline, until you eventually become a spectator in your own life story. Your energy levels are likely plummeting because the mental weight of unexecuted tasks consumes more oxygen than the actual work itself requires. Look at your bank account and your closest relationships to see the physical evidence of where your lack of consistency has bitten. Pay close attention to the sudden tension in your shoulders or the urge to check social media when a challenge appears before. These internal red flags are the sirens of a system that is currently failing to protect your long-term potential and happiness. You can choose to re-engineer your environment by removing the friction between your current state and the version of you that acts. The ultimate choice remains between the sharp pain of intentional growth or the slow and invisible tragedy of staying exactly the same. Consider the perfectionist procrastinator who waits for the perfect conditions before taking a single step toward their major goals. This individual believes they are being diligent while they are actually paralyzed by a fear of making a visible mistake. Contrast this with a reckless sprinter who starts with high energy but lacks the structural systems to maintain long-term progress. Both archetypes are currently trapped in the same biological loop of avoiding the discomfort of steady and boring daily work. Your prefrontal cortex is the seat of your logic, but it is often outvoted by the more powerful emotional centers. You must realize that your brain does not care about your happiness or your success as much as survival. The feeling of resistance you experience when starting a task is actually your brain trying to protect you from effort. If you do not learn to bypass this primitive signal, your life will be defined by the path of least resistance. Think back to that ambitious project you abandoned last June because the initial excitement eventually started to wear thin. That abandonment was not a failure of talent, but a predictable result of relying on a temporary neurochemical high. Your focus is currently a leaking bucket, where every distraction is a hole draining your limited supply of daily cognitive energy. Feel the physical weight of your unfinished business as it sits in the back of your mind throughout every day. Every time you choose short-term pleasure over your long-term vision, you are effectively robbing your future self of freedom. This constant negotiation with your own lazy impulses creates a mental fatigue that makes even small tasks feel completely overwhelming. You are currently standing at a critical juncture where your habits will either build your throne or dig your grave. High probability outcomes suggest that without a systemic intervention, you will be in the same position 1 year from now. The cost of inaction is not just missed opportunity, but the slow and painful death of your own self-respect. Observe the physical sensation of your heart rate increasing when you think about the time you have already wasted today. We must move beyond the myth of motivation and begin the process of building an identity based on resilient action. You are not a victim of your biology unless you choose to remain ignorant of the mechanisms that drive you. You must stop viewing your lack of discipline as a personality trait and start seeing it as a technical error. The 5-second rule functions by creating a sudden cognitive bypass that prevents your brain from initiating its defensive negotiation process. By counting backward from 5, you effectively force the prefrontal cortex to take immediate control of your physical motor functions. Scientific evidence suggests that this brief window of time is all you need to beat the habit of hesitation. You are currently trapped in a pain versus pleasure equation where the easiest options are almost always the most toxic. Scrolling through endless social feeds provides a small hit of pleasure, while secretly decaying your ability to focus on deep. You have to consciously flip this equation by associating the easy path with the agonizing pain of future regret, and every time you choose the hard path, you must visualize the lasting rewards of becoming a person who actually follows. Micro wins are the building blocks of a resilient identity because they provide the dopamine necessary to keep you moving. Forcing yourself to do just one single push-up is infinitely more valuable than dreaming about a perfect hour-long workout. Momentum creates the motivation you are looking for, so you must act first and wait for the feeling later. If you wait to feel inspired before you start working, you are essentially waiting for a lightning strike in a... We must address the internal critic that tells you that you have already failed just because you missed one single. You should treat yourself like a dedicated coach would by offering firm guidance rather than destructive and useless personal insults. Consistency is the only metric that matters in the long game of high performance and personal mental health growth. Imagine yourself on your deathbed looking back at all the potential you left on the table because of temporary. In that final moment, you will not remember the warmth of your bed or the comfort of your favorite distractions. You will only care about whether you had the grit to live fully or if you settled for a life. Time is the only resource that is non-renewable, so you must begin to treat every single hour with extreme. Your future self is currently either cheering for your current actions or weeping for the time you are currently throwing. You are currently breathing in the finite moments of your existence while your potential is leaking like a broken pipe. Your brain is a masterpiece of biological engineering that is currently being used to simulate a life of digital comfort. The systemic collapse of your ambition occurs when the gap between who you are and who you could be becomes. Every time you rationalize a delay, you are feeding a parasitic mental habit that will eventually consume your entire future. Behavioral psychology suggests that the environment you inhabit is the strongest predictor of whether you will succeed or fail miserably. If your workspace is filled with distractions, you are essentially playing a high-stakes game with your hands tied behind. You must begin to treat your attention as a sacred currency that is currently being stolen by trillion-dollar tech. High-probability outcomes for your current trajectory indicate a total loss of time that can never be recovered or replaced. Observe the physical sensation of tightness in your jaw when you realize how much work is still left to. This physical signal is the language of your subconscious mind screaming for you to take immediate and decisive physical action. You should implement a hard rule of zero negotiation, where the countdown to action is the only internal dialogue allowed. The identity of a disciplined person is built through the slow and grinding nature of repetitive and often boring habit. We must replace the hollow concept of self-help with the grounded reality of neurobiological restructuring through consistent daily effort. Your self-worth is deeply tied to your ability to follow through on the promises you make to your own. When you fail to act, you are not just being lazy, but you are actively damaging your own internal psychological. Consider the tragic reality of a life unlived, where all your best ideas remain trapped inside a fearful and... You have the biological hardware required for greatness, but your software is currently running on outdated and fearful survival code. The cost of staying the same is a slow decay of your spirit until you no longer recognize your... You must force the core shift from a person who reacts to feelings to a person who dictates their... Stand up right now and move your body to break the chemical trance of stagnation that has been holding you. You must acknowledge that the version of you who succeeds is not a person who never feels the pull of laziness. That individual simply possesses the neurological infrastructure to act in spite of the constant screaming of their own biological limitations. Your focus is currently a precious resource that is being liquidated by the hour in exchange for temporary digital hits of dopamine. If you do not learn to protect this cognitive energy, your life will become a sequence of reactions to other people's dreams. Consider the systemic collapse of your self-respect every time you allow a simple phone notification to derail your deepest work. You are currently standing on the threshold of a massive transformation that requires you to abandon your current, comfortable, and familiar identity. Evolution does not occur within the safety of the nest, but through the grinding friction of the external and often hostile world. Every single micro-win you secure today is a vote for the person you wish to become in the next decade. High-probability outcomes suggest that your future happiness is directly proportional to the amount of difficult work you are currently avoiding. Observe the physical sensation of energy returning to your limbs the moment you stop negotiating and start doing the actual work. You should treat every temptation to quit as a test of your psychological software and a chance to upgrade your grit. The tragic reality of a life unlived is the only real threat you should be fearing during your waking hours on Earth. You have the biological capacity to rewire your brain through the simple and repetitive act of showing up when you do not. We must stop waiting for a hero to save us and realize that we are the architects of our own mental. Your potential is not a static number, but a living, breathing muscle that either grows through stress or atrophies through constant. Look at the clock right now and realize that these specific seconds are the only ones you will ever truly have. You are exactly one decision away from breaking the cycle of stagnation and entering a new era of personal and professional. The invisible threat of a mediocre life is far more dangerous than the temporary discomfort of a cold and early morning. Future versions of yourself are currently either suffering from your current neglect or thriving because of your current and intense discipline. Step forward into the fire of your own potential and do exactly what needs to be done without any further hesitation.